I'm Clint Wheelock with Informa Tech, and I'm here with my colleague Michael Azoff, Distinguished Analyst with Ovum. We're here at Techcelerate in London, where there are several different co-located events, including Cloud and DevOps World, where Michael's been spending some time, as well as the AI Summit, 5G World, AR and VR, and I'm probably forgetting a few because there's a lot going on here this week.
AI Summit.
That's well, I did remember that part, fortunately. But in any case, Michael, I know that you've been spending some time this morning at some of the kickoff sessions at Cloud and DevOps World specifically, and heard some pretty interesting things from some of the initial keynote presentations, and I'm curious what was most notable for you.
Okay, thanks Clint. So yeah, some highlights, takeaways from the morning session. And so we had Oracle started off with their VP of Cloud and Innovation, talking about creating databases through voice interaction. So self-service, smart creation of databases using Alexa as a front end. So that was interesting. So I think that's something to look out for. Easier to create databases. Then we had Microsoft product manager for Azure DevOps. And he asked a very interesting question to the audience. He said, hands up all those who do tests in production. And we had a full house, only one person raised their hand. And then he asked the question, how many people have bugs that they discover in production? And everybody put their hands up. And then he said to them, right, you guys are doing tests in production. Now that's an interesting point. And so there's a number of aspects to this, because ultimately with cloud native computing, the idea is you should be able to do tests in production. You know, people were going to conferences where we do tests in production, and it sounded scary, but if you look at companies like Netflix, which really defined what cloud native computing is before the terminology started, they created the simian army of bots. They used to go out into production and just create random chaos by killing things. And then the idea is that they'd be fail-safe and the system would not be impacted. So those tests demonstrate how resilient cloud native is. So that's ultimately the goal. So very good touch points. Then my colleague Roy introduced a panel on with CDOs and CIOs on the future role for the C-level in terms of the technology, and whether there should be a CDO on the board. And by and large, it tends to be the CIO is on the board and the CTO isn't. And really they were talking about the rationalization of that role and how very much there should be a technology representative on the board. So I thought that was interesting. The CTO for Ofcom was making the point that there's too much dependency at the moment when you go onto a public cloud, and he was advocating an approach of less coupling and greater freedom of movement across clouds, and I thought that was a good point. And then they moved on to the conversation of the futures, and the role of AI came up in DevOps, and I think that's really going to be a hot area, such as AI ops, mining data in project data, QA data, just mining that with AI, and value stream management and the role of AI in that value stream mapping. So just a whole host of things. Very exciting.
Well, needless to say, if that's just the morning of the Cloud and DevOps World that we're talking about, it's obvious that we're going to have to check back a few times a day just to hear about some of the latest developments. But thanks for sharing some of the highlights, Michael. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.